I've used them. Oh, it says recording in progress. Okay. Shoot. Okay. So anyways, I began using essential oils then. So I graduated from nurse practitioner school. I've been out for 12 years. And about that time, we wanted to have our first baby. So I came off the methotrexate, which I felt terrible. I was working at the urgent care clinic, just craziness. And I had the opportunity to go open up a private medical clinic at a local chiropractic clinic. Two or three people of you here, I either worked with you there or met you there that are online right now. But anyways, I had a little practice there for about a year or so, and that was when I was first introduced to functional medicine. The second I got to that clinic, I told her, or the second we opened up my clinic, I told her I'd been trying, for 3 years to have a baby and was under extreme stress, and she put me on a detox. And between doing the detox and all the stress falling off for me from urgent care, I was pregnant in 30 days, and we had been trying for 3 years. And so I continued to learn about functional medicine, but it was hard to even fathom undoing all the education I had just spent, 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears gaining just to undo that as far as for functional medicine. So I kind of got some pearls of wisdom for that, but I just continued on with my journey. And one thing I wanted to make note is I was totally flabbergasted that in all of my schooling, not once was the importance of nutrition, toxin exposure, chemicals, and food discussed. I recently put a video on my Facebook page of Dr. Casey Means. She's a graduate of Stanford Medical School, and her video is crazy, but it's on my Facebook. You can go back and watch it. It's a couple weeks ago, but she said, and this is her quote that she said, "It's not an understatement to say that I virtually learned nothing at Stanford Medical School about the tens of thousands of scientific papers that elucidate these root causes of why American health is plummeting and how environmental factors are causing it." And so, anyways, I thought that was mind blowing. But I agree. We're not taught that. We didn't learn that, in conventional school. So, anyways, fast forward to about 2016. I just had my first baby. I was severely overweight. I weighed like 340 pounds at that time. I was super high risk. It was just a miracle that I got through my pregnancy. And I went to work in pain management about that time. I decided to have gastric sleeve surgery. I thought, well, hey, if I lose the weight, I'll feel better. Had sleeve surgery, dropped, a lot of weight. I looked great. I still felt terrible. Well, when I lost weight, I lost all my hormones. So all my hormones were basically zero. So then I go to the doctor, they put me on hormones, compounded hormones. I was on testosterone, I was on birth control, all the things, still felt terrible. So in 2019, I saw my first functional medicine doctor. Is actually Dr. Dan Purser. He's famous in the young living world. But I learned about MTHFR, which is a genetic mutation you can have where your body doesn't process B vitamins. I was positive for that. And it blew my mind that just simply changing to a methylated vitamin to where my body actually could break down the vitamins would change my life. And it did. And so I learned that then, and that was a pearl of wisdom that I used on a lot of my patients starting then. But it totally impacted my practice. It did help with my fatigue. And then 2020 hit. And I think just like Delaney was talking about earlier, that was don't even know what to say other than we all were incredibly stressed. I never had to see COVID patients. I was in pain management, but I think everybody in the world felt hopeless and just kind of like the world was ending. So I remember I gained, I lost all this weight and I was so proud of me. But the month that COVID hit, which was March of 22 or March of 2020, I remember gaining like 7 pounds in the first month because I thought, okay, hopefully Jesus is coming back to get us soon. So I'm going to eat some Cheez-Its. And so I remember, immediately. But anyways, I felt super hopeless and I was super sad. And so anyways, we went through it. All of us went through it, 2020, 2021. But anyways, I felt super hopeless because I knew that I'd always wanted a second baby and I felt like this is never going to happen. And my husband's also in healthcare. Many of y'all know him, Lyndall. He works at the orthopedic clinic. And so we're both going through the trenches of hell. I feel like even though we didn't see COVID patients, but all of his surgeries are getting canceled. All of my procedures are getting canceled. It was just a super stressful time, but God saw us through it. And so, anyways, I felt total peace from God about the end of 2021. I felt like God literally clear as day told me like, you're going to have a second baby. And I didn't say a word to my husband. I didn't say a word to my mother. And it was about 3 or 4 months later, we're eating dinner one night and Lyndall gets teary eyed and he said, babe, he's like, I've been having dreams. And like, I feel like God's told me like, we're supposed to have another baby. And I told him, I was like, he told me that 3 or 4 months ago. I was just waiting for him to tell you, you know. And about that time, I went to go see my second functional medicine doctor. It was Dr. Greg. He's off TikTok. I found him on TikTok. He's TikTok famous, but he did some extensive testing on me I never had done. I was positive for Epstein-Barr, positive for Lyme's, many things. He started me on a protocol and he made me promise him I'd wait like 6 to 12 months to have a baby. He said, you don't have to prevent it, but he said, you know, try not to, you know, be tracking your ovulation and everything. And so I said, well, I'm on some crazy medicine. I've been on hormones and, you know, all the things. I'm on some crazy medicine and some, I've been on Plaquenil for a long time. And so I said, well, let me go back to my doctor. So I went to my OB-GYN, told him I wanted to have a second baby. And she literally told me, you're not going to have a baby. You're 39, you're high risk, autoimmune. You've been on all these things, birth control and hormones for years. Like it's never going to happen. And I told her, I said, I don't need you to tell me that's going to happen. I need you to tell me how long I have to be off this medicine. And she said 12 weeks. I said, okay. So I started Dr. Greg's functional medicine protocol. I came off my medicine. And then at the 12-week mark, it was go time. And I was pregnant in 2 months. And previously it took me, you know, 3 years literally. And so I feel like he's totally a blessing of God, and functional medicine, you know, changed my life. And so he was born March of 2023. He's perfect. He's about to be 2 years old. And so I've continued to work in pain management. And this past year in 2024, God put on my heart so strongly to pursue functional medicine. I've always loved it. I've always tried to, you know, incorporate little tidbits of knowledge into my patients. And so the most powerful recent testimony I had was I had a patient that I told my mom about this the other day and she just cried. And she's like, that is just wild. But my most amazing testimony I have recently with one of our patients was she's 35 years old. She's from Lawton. She's a military wife. Her husband's active duty. And I first met her in April of last year. She rolled into our clinic in a wheelchair. And so I'm looking at her thinking, why are you 35 and in a wheelchair? The only diagnosis on her chart was vitamin B12 deficiency induced neuropathy. And her neuropathy pain was so extreme, she couldn't walk, couldn't stand or anything. And so I meet her at our clinic. The doctors usually see patients for their first visit and I see them for follow-up. So I walk in the room. She's already met the doctor once or twice. So I walk in the room and I meet her and she's just super teary-eyed. And she had said that, or on her chart, it said that she had gastric bypass. And so I told her, I said, did anyone talk to you about your B vitamins with you having this deficiency because of your gastric bypass? And she said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I've got you saw the neurologist in Lawton and I've got her clinical notes here that state that you specifically have, B12 deficiency induced neuropathy. I said, you need to be on some really good methylated B vitamins. And she said, well, previously I'd gotten injections of B12 into my body and they made me feel terrible. And I told her, I said, well, those are kind of man-made chemical vitamins and they're junk. I said, I'm going to write you down some things on a piece of paper. And I literally wrote on the back of a piece of paper, I wrote number 1, methylated B vitamins. And then I wrote number 2, functional medicine. And then I gave it to her and I said, I'll see you back in 2 months. I said, but you do some research and let me know what you think. So she comes back in 2 months later, she's on crutches. And she said, I actually can stand to walk and bear weight. She said, this is incredible. And so I'm in tears. She's in tears. And she said, I'm a military wife. People think I'm crazy. But she said, military life is hard because people, Kara says that's huge. It is. And so, of course, we're both in tears. And she said, people think I'm crazy. But she said, it's so hard being a military wife because you move from place to place. You have to reestablish care and the doctors don't care. They want to move you through like cattle. And I said, girl, I get it. And so anyways, I saw her last month. I walk in the door to her. I still have chills like telling the story, but I walk in the door to her room and she's wearing scrubs. And I can't even talk about it without crying, but I said, what is this? And she said, I'm working at an urgent care in Lawton full time. And she said, I owe my life to you. And so
Hold on, we lost your audio. Is it just me?
What did you say?
Oh, I can hear you now. I couldn't hear you.
Okay. Sorry. What was the last thing that you heard me say?
That she owed your life.
Oh, yes.
She owed her life to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. I tapped my microphone. So
That's okay.
anyways, but I told her, I said, I've not told any of my patients this, but I went back to school for functional medicine. I said, and you're the reason. And so, yeah, Lauren's doing a happy dance. But anyways, I was telling my mom this last week. I said, Mom, I know my steps are ordered. And it's just like small changes can change people's lives. And anyway, she's my rock star, my golden child, and I'm so incredibly happy. But anyways, that's just one of those testimonies that I think God told me. Like I feel like it's a total affirmation that I'm supposed to be here, and I'm so proud of her. And so let me go back to my notes because now my eyes are full of tears. But I've had several, I've had several other instances of patient testimonies. But anyways, in 2024, I found Lauren, and I owe you everything. I took a leap of faith. I recently finished up my schooling, past boards. But what all of this comes to say is our testimony absolutely becomes someone else's survival guide. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable and put yourself out there. I posted a video on Facebook 2 days ago. As of today, it's at 6,000 views. And I'm so incredibly humbled by that. That video brought several of you here that didn't know I was going to be doing functional medicine, but I'm super humbled. Whenever we start doing something for good, the devil comes after us. And I popped into my husband's work yesterday, right before, we had our first summit meeting yesterday. Someone say something funny on the chat, keep me from crying. But I popped into my husband's work yesterday afternoon. I'm super pumped up, because we're about to have our, first summit. And someone popped off and said, I tried to watch your video the other night, but I fell asleep in the first 2 minutes. And I literally just walked out of this clinic and I got in the car and I thought, you know what, that's just an attack of the enemy. Obviously we're doing some good here. Kind of like Lauren is supposed to start the meeting at 4 o'clock and the internet's not working and she texts us and I'm like, it's just attack of the enemy. We're here trying to do good. But keep walking the right path. So,
Well, and Delisa, remember the kiwis.
yes,
I have lost many a vision. I've lost many a privilege, many a gift from God by listening to the meandering of kiwis. So
absolutely. Well,
God is sister, they can't look up.
Yes. And I actually, there's three people in here that were with me back in, Brandy probably was there. Marion, I know you were there. My mom was there. Back in when I was there at the chiropractic clinic, I got invited to speak at the Propel. I think it was like Propel Women's Luncheon or something. It was like a empowering women's group in Duncan. And so I shared my testimony, just kind of like, part of the story of, whatever God, brings you to, he'll bring you through it. And the other speaker that spoke that day, of course, she got up there and she was very, very well rehearsed. I wasn't, I'm just up there. I'm down to earth. I just speak from the heart, but this other person had this, big orchestrated speech. And a couple of weeks later, I ran into her at my clinic and she said, well, I kind of heard your ramblings for a while, but she said, I never knew where you were going with that. And it literally shattered me. And at that moment, I thought, I'm never going to get in front of a group of people. I'm never going to share my heart again. And here it is years later, taking the bull by the horns and taking the leap of faith. But I still remember those words. And yesterday, when that negative person popped off and said, I put them to sleep, I thought, you're just a Kiwi. So but I was like, it's just attack of the enemy. So, but anyways, I remember that vividly. I was going to tell Marion and my mom and Brandy and everybody from that time back in my life. It shattered me for a while, but anyway, so that's a bit of my backstory. I hope I'm not speaking too long, but on to what I'm supposed to talk about today after I get done with my sermon was the power of positivity and mindset. If you know me, I always try to be, as positive as I possibly can. I love Mel Robbins. I follow her. She's an incredible author. If you haven't heard about her, she's all about the neuroscience behind positive thinking and positive outcomes. And there's science behind this. There's the science behind it that says, Kara Lovett says, preach it, Mel's so good. She's amazing. She just came out with a new book. I can't wait to read it, but she's on fire. I love her. Other than she has a potty mouth on her podcast or YouTube. Other than that, I love this girl. But anyways, she talks about the science called neuroplasticity. And this is getting a little science, but it says that neuroplasticity is the brain's capacity to continue growing, evolving in response to life experiences. It refers to the ability of the brain to adapt and change over time by creating new neurons, building new networks, creating new connections, and pathways in response to changes in behavior, environment, and injury. It's a remarkable organ, malleable, meaning that it changes organ as we grow and learn. And so what I get from that is a simple example is the more you look for positive, the more positive you'll see. The more you look for negative, the more negative you'll see. Example, your mom gets a brand new red car. Well, all of a sudden you see, like my mom, when she got a new red Explorer, I saw that car everywhere. Well, there were always red Explorers in Duncan, America. It's just my mom was driving one. Now I'm looking for it. And so I always share that with the girls I work with, like look for positive and that's what you'll see. God's made us such complex beings. In my work, I'm always preaching to my nurses, you have to look for the positive. And I always tell them, we're doing the Lord's work, let's show God love and he'll do the rest for us. But sometimes it's hard to be positive. Especially, some of you may suffer from mental health issues like anxiety or depression, and you try your hardest to be positive, but it's so hard. And what if I told you that there may be imbalances in your body that are playing a huge factor in your mental health and mindset? And so with functional medicine, as we've stated, it helps you identify the root cause. In the past 24 hours, I've been flooded with messages and DMs popping up asking, what do I treat this condition with? What do you do for that condition? And in functional medicine, it's not a this for that. That's what conventional medicine does. Conventional medicine focuses many times on silencing the alarm. There's a pill for blood pressure, a pill for cholesterol, a pill for weight gain, a pill for thyroid. Chronic pain, stomach issues, all the things, you take all these pills, your labs look better, but the imbalance or root cause isn't identified. Example of irritable bowel syndrome. Functional medicine identifies and treats the drivers like dysbiosis, which is all the microorganisms in your gut are completely off balance. So you could have that, you could have stress, you could have food intolerances. And there was a 2020 study that showed that 80% of patients with irritable bowel syndrome or IBS, 80% of those were due to SBO or SIBO, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is huge. Treating that imbalance can resolve the symptoms. There's another example of autoimmune disease. You treat it with steroids or immunosuppressants, but functional medicine addresses, triggers like gluten sensitivity, gut health, chronic infections. There was a study in 2021 that showed that diet and lifestyle interventions only can improve autoimmune conditions by over 50%. Another example is depression. You have depression, you go to your doctor, conventional medicine, they put you on antidepressants, which targets your neurotransmitters. Functional medicine, we identify that many times you've got a nutrient deficit, like your omega-3s or magnesium, and you may have gut dysbiosis, which is an imbalance of the microorganisms. Result in functional medicine is 70% of those patients report symptom improvement with functional medicine approaches, which is huge. And so functional medicine focuses on extinguishing the fire, not just silencing the alarm. We focus on, or we always say you need to test and not guess. How many of you, like we've already talked about this earlier tonight, but how many of you have taken, different brands of supplements and you never had a positive outcome and you wasted thousands of your dollars? But with functional medicine, we identify the root cause, the imbalances, and help your body, come back to a restorative or self-healing state. We try to shift your mindset from what is happening to your body to why is this happening? We all know that the systems are interconnected. I'm almost done, I promise. I feel like I've been talking too long, but part of functional medicine is the neuronexus biome. This is how your mind, your body, and soul, they all have to be in sync. This includes your gut-brain axis. Like literally your gut is directly connected to your brain. The first time that I learned that or heard that, I thought that is wild. But example of the interconnected systems that we recognize is like with your thyroid. Your thyroid is the endocrine system. It's directly related to your mood, which is part of your nervous system. It's connected to your digestion, which is your gastrointestinal system. It's insane. And so there's tons of research on the gut-brain axis is what it's called, and it demonstrates how gut health directly influences anxiety, depression, and cognition. So in conclusion, each person's health is shaped by their unique genetic and biochemical makeup. Diet, sleep, physical activity, stress management, all those things are central to your health in functional medicine, and we try to address all of that. I hope that what you've learned from Delaney, my amazing colleague, Dr. Lauren, myself, I hope that we've given you some type of insight, some knowledge, understanding of what may be going on in your body. But I hope most of all that my testimony, all of our testimonies give you hope. And so we're here to join you in your path to healing. And I just wanted to share one of my favorite scriptures. It's Jeremiah 30:17 that says, "But I will restore you to health and heal your wounds."
Oh,
So that's all of
Delaney,
that.
or I'm sorry, Delisa, that was incredible. I know whenever we're speaking for a long time, sometimes we feel like, am I rambling? Am I going on too long? No,
Yes.
you did so good. So you like everybody, please drop some fire in the chat for Delisa. However you felt like that spoke to you, because I know that that spoke to a lot of people. I was definitely tearing up. That's incredible. And I just, it's like no matter how many incredible stories you hear, it's like I feel like being indoctrinated for a long time in conventional medicine, decades, guys. I was in school for 10 years and, you know, ICU nurse for 4 years, family practice, which some of that was me already like kind of veering off. But, and I just, you still like your mind gets blown every time you hear something like that. Like we have one of our students, her husband had horrible, he's in a more of a remission now, multiple sclerosis. And he went from being a very active, like CrossFit person to in a wheelchair. And he is now like he has a few things that like he's a little bit weaker than he used to be, but he's now like active normal. Like you wouldn't necessarily just know it. And he was in a wheelchair, young, our age, in his 30s. Like that's just isn't that like it's mind blowing. And like there's a quote that's gone out there before about there's nothing more profitable than a sick child. And the longer people are sick, the more honestly they're put into the system of, I talk about passive systems and stuff like that. Well, the pharmaceutical one is an evil one. And because honestly, like, prescribers are out there like not even knowing that they're part of all of this. And the pharmaceutical company's just sitting there and like just racking it in because they're not doing, they're not doing any of the patient care or anything like that. They're just like racking in the money. And the longer you keep somebody on, as a matter of, okay, can I be a little controversial with y'all? Like, I want to share something with y'all. It's okay. Like, no one's gonna turn me in, right? I'm turn me in too. You can look this up, but like no one's gonna get mad at me, right? If I get like real with y'all for a second. There's a couple things that you shared on Delisa too that I want to ask. That can just go for it. Okay, I got permission from somebody. Let's go. Go team, go. You can look this up. Axel Therapeutics is looking. So we're talking about like gut brain axis here, but this is like the most solid piece of evidence that I'm like, okay, this isn't right. This is wrong. Like somebody say this is wrong. Axial Therapeutics has a medication that decreases the symptoms of autism in children. That's fantastic, right? Super happy about that. Until you learn that they have trademarked what it is that they affect. Why do they trademark it? Why do you think they might trademark a word on the thing that they are trying to suppress? So they don't like, so other people don't know, right? They have it like trademarked as something like neurotransmitter stimulating factor or something like that. And it's like TM after that. I'm like, why do they have a trademark talking about pathophysiology? I've never even seen that before. And what they're trying to do is hide the fact that they are suppressing the symptoms from LPS. I'm going to try to do this in a very, very this is the first time I've this thing of information that I've shared, like not medical platform. I don't want to get like too like in the weeds with it, but LPS, we'll call it LPS. It's lipopolysaccharides, but LPS for short is produced by bad bacteria in the gut. And we know that it's one of the causes. So autism, this is not they don't hear this and think, oh, she said that we now know complete everything for autism. We don't. We know pieces and parts of it, and they're coming together, and there's a lot of things. So this is one piece of the puzzle. But we know that LPS causes a lot of the symptoms that we see in autism that's produced from the bad bacteria in the gut. Axial Therapeutics made that medication that suppresses the symptoms from the LPS. But here's a thought. Why don't we start them on high dose herbal treatments, like medicinal herbal herbs that will get rid of that? And then we don't have any LPS. But what happens then? If we do that, what happens? I think I just can't just say it. No patient. There's no patient for life. Now that is a piece of the puzzle, and when you work with autistic children, there's a lot of pieces of puzzle. There's nutrition, there's nutritional deficiencies, there is the gut, there is a lot of things on that. But to me, I'm like, that is solid proof of what they're doing. Because I remember having a patient come to me and she asked me about cancer. She said, "Do you think they have a cure for cancer and they're not telling anybody?" And I was like, "No, I don't think anyone would be like." I just my mind instantly thought of like children with cancer. And I was like, "There's no way that there's that much greed and corruption." Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess you can, but you can look it up yourself. You can go to Axial Therapeutics and find their medications. And I probably have the name of the trademark wrong on what they call it, but it's something along those lines. It's like suppressing the neurosymptoms. So yeah, big pharma, government, all the things. Yeah. And so, but God heals. Like Delisa just ended with, like God heals, right? Isn't that awesome? Like I said that kind of complacent, but really, like, isn't that awesome? And he's given us all of these things. And I truthfully believe that a big part of it is that it allows the glory of what he's already told us in scripture to be true. Like as much as it's difficult to see like the big picture kind of plan out and play out, I mean, but absolutely like this. And another thing that you and I forget why you had me whenever you said something to Lisa that made me think I want to pull this up for them. Um this chart right here, and this is again, it's from, where I speak and I'm teaching like other providers and stuff. But you were talking about supplement, and you said it's like supplements not working for some people and that kind of stuff. Didn't you say? I think you said something along those lines, Lisa, right? And that's what made me think of. I wanted to share this. I don't think I shared this with y'all yesterday. It's just kind of like if you are, let's say you're taking magnesium. It's a very, very common thing for people to take for like calmness if they feel anxious. And this is just one example. It'd be like, oh, magnesium doesn't work, right? Because they'll take it and they're like, it's not doing anything for me. Like I tried that, it didn't do anything for me. Or maybe even for constipation. Like maybe you tried it for different things. And here is why individualized medicine is so important. And like you test, don't guess. You get the test, you don't just guess on it. Because you could be taking the magnesium or the zinc, but if we go all the way up here and you're deficient in folate, you don't have the tryptophan, you don't have the 5-HTP, which is quite literally it's the precursor for serotonin, which we've been talking about serotonin a lot here lately, um, to be able to make the serotonin going into the N-acetyl serotonin. So, or folate or B12 needed for the next conversions. So, not to like get in the weeds on this, but just to see like as an example, and that's why sometimes one supplement one thing doesn't necessarily work. And does every functional practitioner nail it every single time? No, right? There's also kind of that variation. Like I do believe there's a big difference and that's where I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to be because I believe I'm okay, I'm just gonna be really transparent on me and kind of my progression into this world because I started out being okay, I believe in functional medicine, but I don't believe that like coaches or anybody who's naturopath, like I don't believe that there's still science enough to really understand. And I've since changed that. Like one of my coaches, especially, she's blown my mind on the results that she gets with her patients. She's a coach, she's not a nurse, she's not a practitioner or anything. And I'm like, okay, no, like it's the person, right? Like it's the person who can implement and take the protocols and do well with them. But I used to be really biased on, I mean, like I spent a ridiculous amount of money for my degrees, right? Because I was like snobby when it come to school, right? Like I was like, you got to have the best degree and all the things. And what I've learned is that is not necessary. As a matter of fact, it's really not necessary. And the other part of that is that, I just want to say though that, so I don't believe that anymore, but I do want to say that sometimes the practitioner or the protocols that they learned, sometimes they may not be the absolute best because there are some, if I can just be honest, there are some protocols out there that are not really evidence-based and science-based. Like there is some of that out there, right? Like I'm not saying that doesn't exist. So I just want to encourage somebody today that if you feel like you're at the end of the rope and like you're like me whenever I got the test back with my colleague, we reviewed it and everything was totally normal and I felt like completely defeated, like there's no way that I can be better and then I can be healed from my IBS. I promise you, you still can't. Like don't give up. And sometimes it's just that little bitty thing, like find that little bitty tweak that completely changes your world. So whenever you were talking about that, that was one of the things I was like, oh yes, absolutely.
Hey
Okay, so
Lauren, will you tell them the quick version of your story about you were having horrible stomach pain, went to see GI, and they basically told you were crazy?
yeah. So the kind of short and quick on that, because I shared it like yesterday also. I was scoped, meaning that like, put to sleep, oh, tube down my throat, tube up my rear, with from one of my colleagues. Like that's fun, super exciting. You have to go through that. Scoped up, down, left, right, more than once. Everything normal. Tests were negative. Um, like literally everything was always fine. And and then I was also getting like MRIs done on my neck and my shoulder, and I knew there was something wrong with my neck. And now I know I'm not crazy and making it up because I no longer have that problem. I fixed my gut and my neck pain went away, my shoulder pain went away, my bilateral, my both of my foot pain went away. I do believe that I was developing autoimmune disease. Patients are always, I saw it maybe not thousands, but I saw it hundreds of times in the clinic. I was like, you're autoimmune. Not popping up positive yet, but you're autoimmune. I do believe I was leading towards autoimmune, and autoimmunity is very, very high in my family. Like the risk for it is very high at a very young age. And so I do believe that as developing more of a Sodrans, maybe even like a fibro type of scenario. And yeah, the last time we went over those tests, I was exhausted mentally, physically, spiritually, giving up, feeling like I honest to goodness, there was moments I thought, is this going to kill me? Like, am I going to have a perforated bowel and die? Like, especially when you've done ICU before, you've seen it happen. All those thoughts go into your mind. And yeah, the last time, they told me nothing's wrong with you. I felt defeated. I felt like they were looking at me like I was making things up. I felt like a liar. I started second guessing myself and thought, if anyone else has been there before, but started second guessing myself that am I crazy? Like, am I a hypochondriac? Is this just all in my head? Like I see other people being fine eating these things. Why is it bothering me? And yeah, I felt defeated. But like I said before, on one hand, I felt defeated. The other, I felt liberated because it gave me the permission to say, you know what? Conventional medicine doesn't know everything. There are things there that they obviously don't know because even though I had those thoughts, I still went, no, I'm not making this up. Like I'm 100% embarrassed by this and I don't want to live this way. Like I am a go strong, go hard type of person, like just knock down goals type of person. I'm not a sit there and, woe is me. And so, yeah, it liberated me. So if you've been there before, like sometimes God's just about to use that so you can springboard up into where you're meant to be at. Is that what you were meaning on sharing that part of it? Just kind of that with IBS. Yeah, and I had a lot of issues from it. And I still, even knowing that it was all connected, because I had learned that and I knew that that was going to be part of the process, I was still just like mind blown. I was like, I can turn my neck? What is this? Like I can move my shoulder. I mean, I was literally falling apart at a very young age, which is crazy. I blamed it on CrossFit. It's like I blamed it on being too healthy, which CrossFit you can't do injuries. You definitely can. But I wasn't doing like real CrossFit. I was doing like, I don't know, not real stuff. Like not like where I was like, I don't know, lifting 100, 500 pounds on my head or something. Rainy says, I spent 2 to 3 years going to my primary doc and she kept just saying, just take a stool softener. That's with conventional medicine and thinking that more fiber and stool softener is going to fix everything. I don't get it, friends. I'm like, I knew from very early on, I was like, we do not know how to treat constipation because I had a folder on it. Trying to anyone else, any other providers were like, what are we going to do for constipation? I was one of them, I was like suffering from it. So I was like, there's got to be something. Yeah, no, they'll work for a little bit and then they'll stop. If you're constipated, you'll be fine. Delise is literally the only one who took me serious. Oh, yes. Well, and I think and I love that. I love like your heart shone so much today. And I'm so honored. I truthfully mean this from the bottom of my heart. So honored that you were brought to me. Like it literally honors me. And yeah, that's the thing. Like I think that's like a gift, right? You're probably like me in that maybe even a little bit gullible and some people maybe did take you for a ride, but we always believe our patients. Yeah. Thankful for as well. Yes.
Okay,
Oh.
tell the jokes. I'll stop crying now.
No, I love it. It's good. It's good. Emotions are not bad. They are not bad. Um All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for like, I know that this was like a rocky road today. Um, but it's so funny because I moved from little bitty small town America to bigger small town America. I mean, it's still not a big town. We're kind of on the outskirts, but I thought, oh my goodness, we have better internet here. Like, I was so excited about that. I don't think I'll be honest with you, we were better. And I think somebody started out saying like from kind of your hometown stomping grounds, which is where we knew each other. I was in a small town around your small town, and how different everyone looks at things there. And I always love to share that, if you feel like you're alone in deciding to do this and, branch out and do the thing and look at things different than what anyone else has ever done before. I mean, there's a lot of people that you would be surprised to. I feel like because there's kind of some like shame around wanting to do something different than what's culturally normal. I mean, I didn't grow up. I was in a small town America that said if it ain't fried, it ain't food. It was one of the signs on one of the stores. So, and there were a ton of people that were like, I know you're doing that functional medicine thing. Like when I left the clinic, three of them stopped me at the door, hands wide, and said, I know that's what you're doing. I want to follow you. And disclaimer, I said no because I've decided to not compete. So, but um think Laura as well. Love you more. Oh, I love it. All right. All right, guys. Eye-opening. I love that. Thank you, Tanya. Yeah, it is. It was eye-opening for me as well. So, all right, guys. Well, we are, and just like you said, like that's 100% the enemy trying to stop incredible things from happening whenever things like that go down. Um, but yeah, guys, thank you, Candace. You're so welcome. We'll be back here if you want to come back party with us again tomorrow. 4 p.m. Central. We'll kind of wrap things up. I will send out kind of what's here on the replay. So kind
Yeah,
of thing.
I didn't
So
catch that either. So just so everyone knows on the replay, Delaney, awesome presentation. Lauren, awesome presentation. And then we hit recording right when I start talking. So bless it. Anyways,
yes,
just the
yeah, for
enemy.
sure.
Hey, I still think we did the Lord's work today. So
Oh, I
thank you,
100%
ladies.
agree. I 100% agree. Yeah. And if you weren't live, then be live tomorrow. If you're watching the replay and like, yeah, you catch it. Catch us tomorrow. Because who knows when I might not click on next tomorrow, and not record. So 100%. But yeah, no, it was incredible meeting with you all today and blessed from the bottom of my heart. Hope to see all of you back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central. So y'all have a blessed evening. And I will see y'all later. Bye.